What's up, everybody? I'm Aaron, and today we're going to be talking about the best microphones for streaming, podcasting, and YouTubing. There seems to be a lot of people in those categories that are uneducated on audio and microphones, and that's not y'all's fault. I did some research before this and typed in the best broadcasting microphone in Google, and I also typed in the best streaming microphone. And the first couple results of each of those, the websites said that the Blue Yeti was the best microphone, and that's a condenser microphone. And almost every single suggestion was a condenser microphone of some sort. And that's probably not necessarily the best option for you. And we'll talk about why that isn't the best option. We'll compare and contrast dynamic and condenser microphones. And there will be timestamps in the description down below just for everything I talk about, so you can jump straight to it if you just want to get to one point. I do also want to give a disclaimer that everything that I'm saying is opinionated in some form. I do advocate using your ears and also trying different things. Every room's going to be different. Every voice is going to be different. But this is just from my experience, and I think it could apply to most of you. So yeah, if you do have the means, give every mic a try. But if not, then you can follow my budgets that I'll have and give that a try. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the two different types of microphones we're going to be talking about today are dynamic mics, like this one, and condenser mics. We'll check out the condenser a little bit later. I also want to mention that there are XLR microphones and USB microphones. XLR microphones basically need an XLR cable, the microphone itself, and an audio interface, which takes that analog signal that you're getting from the microphone and turns it into a digital signal so the computer can read it. The USB mic basically does that inside the mic itself. You don't need an XLR cable like this one or an audio interface. Those tend to be a little bit cheaper, and the audio quality tend to not be as good. So let's start with dynamic mics. I want to start with the benefits of dynamic microphones, and those are basically that they're really good at noise rejection. They're really good with just speaking, so podcasting and radio shows and streaming. And they tend to not pick up as much echoes in the room. And that kind of goes hand in hand with noise rejection. So if you have an untreated room, which I'm willing to bet most of you streamers and podcasters and YouTubers alike don't have the best acoustics in your room. You probably have bare walls or just posters on your walls. I have what I would maybe call a semi-treated room. It's by no means professional, but I have duvets hanging and quilts hanging. It deadens the sound a little bit. It does a decent job at it. Now, the downside of dynamic mics are that they don't really necessarily pick up the beautiful details in the high ends or the really good sounding low end near as much. It's just not as detailed, if that makes sense. So if I'm playing an acoustic guitar in a perfect environment, then I'm going to want a condenser microphone. You would always choose a condenser microphone in the perfect environment, but when we're on stage performing, then we might even be using a mic similar to this. This is the Shure SM58. It's actually a quarter of the cost of this microphone, and we'll talk about pricing later once we get to the budgets near the end of the video, and we'll also compare these two. But for now, let's check out condenser microphones. And this one right here is the AKG C214. It's a pretty good condenser microphone. It's what I would call low to mid range. And so that's another thing that we can point out, is that this is a low to mid range microphone. And this one right here is considered the broadcasting standard microphone. So, I mean, you see a bunch of big streamers using it. A ton of podcasters use it. On radio shows, they use this microphone. It's one of the best dynamic mics, but it's the exact same price as this microphone. So that's one thing to kind of understand, is that you get a lot more for what you're paying for if you go with a dynamic mic. Another thing about condenser microphones are they kind of pick up a little bit of more room noise too. Just goes along with what I was saying with the noise rejection is not near as good. I'm gonna back up a little bit so maybe you can hear the difference, because I am in a semi-treated environment, so this might make it a little more drastic, so you can hear the acoustical differences. Acoustical differences, does that even make sense? I don't know. So I'm bouncing back between the two mics. You might like how the SM7B sounds, and you might like how this mic sounds, but if you analyze it differently, or closely, I should say, then you might hear that there's a little bit more echo. And if you're in a room that has 0 duvets hanging, I'm a little crazy, so I've gone that far, then you're going to hear even more of that. So that's one thing to notice with this microphone, and one thing to point out. So let's test our SM58 and see if that's the right mic for you. So bear with me for just 1 second. Okay, so I got this one plugged in and we are good to go. You're currently hearing me through the SM58. Like I said, it's seen on stages all the time. It's a very popular mic. It's been one of the most popular for a very long time for live settings. Now, if you notice, while I'm bouncing between the two, I'll do that right now, you might hear a little less low end, not as detailed, not as full, I would say, than this mic per se. In the SM7B, I think it sounds just a little bit better. Does that justify the extra $300 for this microphone? I'll let you decide on that one. For me, personally, I think it does, but I also spend a lot of time analyzing audio. I try to get the best sounding audio I can get. So for me, I think it's worth this. But down in the comment section below, please let me know what you think. Now that we've tested all the mics and seen how they sound, let's go over some budgets. I think if you're looking for a really easy solution, you're not worried about having the greatest audio, but you are a content creator and you want good audio, you just don't want to step it up to the level where you're paying a few $100s, then a really good option is an Audio-Technica ATR 2100 or the Samson Q2U. Both those will be in the description below. One reason this could be appealing to you is if you like the ideas of the Blue Yeti or the Blue Snowball, very popular microphones. I feel like almost every single person has had one of these mics at some point. They have this sound where they pick up so much echo, and the keyboard clacking that you've all heard before. Some streamers have used that, and you've noticed that it doesn't sound like the professional audio that you're hearing from these big name streamers. So I would maybe look towards one of those microphones. They're dynamic, they're USB, and they're under $70 or $80. But if you are wanting a little bit better audio, you're not wanting to really compromise, then you can go the XLR route and go for the SM58, the one that we just tried. You will need an audio interface for that, and that'll set you back about $100. So we're looking at around $200 for an audio interface and a microphone, but you get a lot better audio and a little more flexibility as well. I have description or links in the description below for the Focusrite Scarlett, which I think is a really good audio interface. And it tends to be one of the more popular ones that I've seen around. It's one of the best sellers and has been for a few years now. If you're kind of wanting to get the best audio experience you can and you want your listeners to have the best audio experience you can, then the SM7B is one of the most popular mics for a reason. It was used in almost every podcasting studio, and almost every single studio there is one of these guys. So you can't go wrong with it, honestly. Now, you will need, again, an audio interface. And if you're wanting to just go for the Scarlett, I think you would get great audio with that. But if you're, again, wanting to not compromise at all and get the best audio you can get, you can go really overboard and get the universal audio interface. But I think maybe a good middle ground for that, which you really wouldn't notice much differences for podcasting and streaming and all that, would be the Audient ID14. It's a really good audio interface, and it runs around the $300 price range. All right, guys, well, that will just about do it for this video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and tell your friends about this channel. My goal with this channel is to basically just have one place where you can go and learn about making YouTube videos or podcasts or streaming, just kind of one area where you can learn about all that, because I know there's a ton of content out there, but sometimes it makes it even harder because there's so much stuff out there. So yeah, if you're into that, then please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.